Well, buenas noches. Good night. Hey, if I was looking for a church, if I was in the street, which I've been in the street looking and searching for a church, and if I came in here, I would stay here, really. This is a nice church, a nice group of people, and a nice pastor here. Pastor Campbell, my privilege to meet him. I'll explain you in a minute how I met him, because he has to do with my life verse, actually, okay? Well, like he said, yeah, my name is Jose Chavez, coming from Chicago. Now I live in the Indiana area, but I was part raised in Chicago and part raised in Mexico City. And I'm gonna talk about my life a little bit. It would take probably about 2 hours. Is that okay with you guys? Yeah. Amen, amen. That's good. That's good. I can stay in church all day, really. For me, I can stay all Sunday. Right? But sometimes we gotta go and eat and come back and all that. But yeah, it's nice to be in church. I didn't know that before, that it was so great to be in church, but it is. Well, I'm gonna start with the first time actually that I came to Indianapolis. It was kind of tragic. We came to give somebody a ride that worked in the parking garages doing demolition and all that. And some friend of ours, he said, hey, you want to give us a ride to Indianapolis? I'm like, yeah, let's go. You know, you're drinking and everything, and so everything's easy. Yeah, let's go take a ride over there. So we came and dropped him off. We left the hotel that we dropped him off like at 2 in the morning. And then I woke up at 6 in the morning, and I'm like, where are we at? We were in Kentucky. My friend we let my friend drive, and instead of him going that way, he went that way. And so we actually turned around and went that way. Well, my car was leaking a little bit of oil, and I forgot about it. So when we're almost getting home, close, maybe like 20 miles from home, the engine blows up in the expressway. So that was pretty bad. That's my experience coming to Indianapolis the first time. This time that I came to Indianapolis, I came with time and everything was going well. I was like 30 miles away from my house, and I stopped at the gas station and I forgot my wallet in my coat last night that I wore. I keep a bag with me where I carry checkbook, everything, paperwork, work, everything. And the only thing was missing was my wallet that I kept in so I had to go back, and then I was in a rush this way. And I got here a little bit early, but I had to get some coffee, so I went look for Dunkin' Donuts, which took me all the way to Greenwood or something, like 10 miles away from here. But I'm here. Well, well, I'm talking about calling. My life verse is Jeremiah 33:3. And I don't know if you guys know what it says, but we can go to it and read it. Jeremiah 33:3. That's my life verse. And he says, call unto me, and I will answer thee, and show thee great and mighty things which thou knowest not. Call. I like it also a lot in Spanish, because in Spanish the translation is clama a mí. And call means a few things. I was searching for the meanings of call, and it means cry out, it means clamorous, it means cry, it means shout, it means yell. Who knows the first the words from the first phone call that it happened? Did anybody knows? Mr. Bell did the first words. Come, there you go. Come here. Wow, yeah. My grandson was at the house yesterday, and he actually told me, my grandson is 7. And I'm like, wow. So I wrote it down. Come here. Well, that was the first phone call. I was also thinking about the public phones. Who remembers the public phones? Man, do you remember when you had to call your girlfriend, how many quarters you had to spend? Getting as close as you could to the public phone and take about $3 in quarters and then finish and then go get more to come back. That was crazy, right? Yeah, I wasn't too privileged of having a home phone. I came here and my parents were not here at that time, so I lived with friends, with my brother, with wherever it was nighttime, I stayed. And so there was no phone that I can go, only public phone. But Mr. Campbell here, the way I met him, I heard his story on the radio. We have a radio station in our church, and I love those stories on Fridays. On Fridays, I can't wait to hear stories from different people. And so I heard Mr. Campbell's story about the city of Indianapolis and starting a church and planting churches. And me coming from the city, from Mexico City, and in Chicago, the city, so I'm more like a city guy. So to me, caught my attention right away. And I called Mr. Campbell, and he did not answer. He did, but look at this. I mean, he did not answer, okay? So I left him a message. I said, hey, Mr. Campbell, whenever you have a chance, if you want to give me a call. Well, he never did. Okay, well, we had a conference in our church like 2 weeks later, 2 or 3 weeks later. And so there's a few pastors there, and I had a seat right there, and there I had my whole like maybe room for 4 or 5 guys. I had room for some other people, and somebody asked me, "Hey, do you have seats?" I'm like, "Yeah, I was saving them for you guys." There was 3 of them, and I said, "I was saving them for you guys. I knew you guys were coming, so I saved some seats for you guys." And they're like, "Oh, thank you." So they came in. Well, Mr. Campbell sat next to me. And a little bit later, we start talking, and he says, "Oh, by the way, Aaron Campbell from Indianapolis." I'm like, "What? What did you just say?" Aaron Campbell, and I had the name that I had called. I said, "I call you." I said, "I call you." He's like, "When?" I said, "I called you like 2, 3 weeks ago." And so he checks on his phone, and he finds my number. He's like, "Yeah, you did." And so that's how we met. And after that, I told him that I wanted to talk to him, and so I came and talked to him. But that's how we got to meet each other. And I think that's from God, really, because, I mean, out of 5,000 people that were in the conference, and he decides to sit by me and tell me his name. Yeah. So that's from God. Well, what I was gonna say, sorry. Okay, I was gonna say a funny call, and probably all of you guys have a funny call that you guys ever made to somebody or something. But this funny call I made, my most funny call that I think it was funny. To the other guy, I don't think it was funny. But actually, one time I made a call, and it was to a girlfriend that I had, and so her dad answered the phone, and so I didn't want to say it was me because he was gonna get mad. So I said it was his nephew. Well, actually, I meant to say that I was my girlfriend's boyfriend, because I wasn't her boyfriend. She had a boyfriend, but I was talking to her. So I wanted to say that I was her other boyfriend. So when the dad answered, he said, who is it? I said, this is Javier Mendez. Well, their last name was Mendez also. And he also had a nephew, Mendez. So he's like, he's thinking that I'm the nephew, the dad. So he's like, hey, son, where are you? So I guess the nephew was coming from the border, from Mexico. And he's like, where are you? Are you in California already? I'm like, yeah, I'm in California. And he said, will you get here? I said, tonight. And he said, about what time? I'm like, 7. And he's like, okay, I'm going to get to, it was around 5. He said, I'm going to go to the airport, to O'Hare. And I'm like, okay. And I'll wait for you. I said, by the time you get to the airport, I'll be there, you know? And so then he decides to leave. And so then, because it's like an hour and a half to get to the airport, and by the time you look for parking and all that. So he wanted to go with time by the time I was going to fly in. So I'm like, yeah, that's what I was calling for. So he's like, okay, I'll go over there. I'll go to the airport right now. So then I leave. And supposedly, I leave, but I didn't leave. I mean, I was there. I was by the library. And so then the dad leaves. And I can see when he got in his car and he left with the mom. And so then I go in the back door by the porch, and I go upstairs. I mean, this family was a Mexican family. It was like real. I mean, the boyfriend couldn't go upstairs, couldn't go to the door. I mean, it was very, they were pretty hard. And so I go upstairs to the porch, and my girlfriend, which she was my girlfriend, but she comes out. And she's like, what are you doing here? You got to leave here. My dad. I said, no, don't worry about it. Your dad left already. Oh, my mom. I'm like, no, your mom left too, you know. And she's like, what? And I told her the story. Well, guess what? She said, you can play with me, you can do anything to me, but do not play with my parents. So that was pretty bad. So she said, get out of here. And I left, and it was pretty bad, because after that she broke, I didn't have no hope. Later she got married to this other guy and all that. But that was the funny call. Also, I was gonna mention a sad call, and this anyway. Well, I'm trying not to. Okay, a sad call. Somebody one time called me like 5 years ago, and told me about my son. They said, "Are you going to your son's funeral?" And I said, "My son's funeral? What are you talking about?" I have 3 kids with my wife, and they're all married, by the way, and so I'm like, my son's funeral. And so then the girl says, his cousin says, yeah, Luke. And I'm like, Luke who? And she says, Luke was your son, and that you had with Don. And so then it kind of makes sense. I mean, before a girl came looking to for me at my aunt's house, and she said that she was pregnant, and so I didn't do nothing about it. And so I forgot about it. She left, and I never heard from her. And later, now, supposedly Luke was in jail, and he got hung, or either he hung himself or somebody hung him or something like that. But he died. And he was, at that time, when he died, he was 25. And so that was a very sad story for me, because this guy, my son, was looking for me, but he didn't want to call me. He was afraid to call me, thinking that I was going to reject him, which I would have never rejected him. I would have never. I actually, after that, I cry a lot, and I was very sad about it, because I saw the pictures of him, and actually he looks more like me than any of my other sons. So I could see me and him a lot. And I was pretty sad about it. I mean, that I couldn't help him out. I couldn't be there for him, and because I wasn't there, that's why he ended up in jail and all the problems that he had. And so after that, I'm gonna tell you about a real happy call that I had. After that, I remember that I had a certain uh, uh, kind of thinking that I might had another kid with somebody else. So I started searching and looking for this person. She had moved to Texas, and she had said that she was pregnant at the time. And so then I didn't know nothing about her. And so then I started searching on Facebook for friends that knew her and all that. And it took me about 2 weeks, but I did find out I found her. And so I texted her and I said on Facebook, and I said that if that was true, that we had a child together. And so I wanted to hear, no, it was somebody else, or I was never pregnant, or something like that. But no, she says, yes, we have a daughter. And so it was when I got later, maybe like a week and a half later after that, I got to talk to her, to my daughter, and it was very happy for me to be able to talk to her and to meet again with her. Because, I mean, my daughter was 24, and I never saw her, never talked to her before. And so for me, I was very happy, and I still am, and I still talk to her. And she lives in Minnesota, and we have a very good relationship. And actually, she looks a lot like me also. And a coincidence that those two kids that I didn't know nothing about it, they had the same birthday, 1 year apart, but same birthday. So it was but I'm very sad and upset that I couldn't do nothing about my son, but at least I was able to talk to my daughter. Well, I wanted to say those things, part of my story. Maybe you can see a little bit of where I come from. And you know what? The choices that we make, sometimes there's not a lot that we decide to make them. And you guys probably know that. I mean, that's where we live, how we're raised, in the environment that we hang out. And so that's who we turn out to be. Sometimes there's no counsel there. There's nobody to tell us this is wrong. You don't do this. You don't do that. And you see everybody else living that way, and that's what you do. But actually, it's not always fun because out there we suffer a lot, and I'm sure you guys, a few of you guys know about that, being in jail and all that. I mean, I've been in jail a lot of times. Well, I wanted to say about Jeremiah 33:3. You know, Jesus said, men ought to always pray. And Paul said, pray without ceasing. And God says to Jeremiah, call me. And you know, call me, God gives him like his private number. One time I did a job for Mr. Young. You probably know him, Brother Ray Young. And he said, after I finished the job, he paid me, and he also gives me in a paper his cell phone number. And he says, here's my number. If anything you need, give me a call. And that's very important for somebody to giving you your private number. And God gives us his private number. You know, he says, call me anytime. The other day, my son works with me, and he was talking to me in the car before we started working, and a little bit, I was looking at my phone for things or work or something, and all of a sudden he says, yeah, Dad, I'm having surgery. And I'm like, what? And I put my phone down. I'm like, what? yeah, I'm having surgery. I'm like, what? What happened? Oh, a hernia or something. And, and you know what? That's how God is. You know, we want to talk to him. I mean, he's there to listen to us, to hear us. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to start with my story so I don't take that long. But I am from Mexico City, like I said, at the age of 8 years old. Are you 8? She's, you're 8? Okay, yeah, I'm there too. I never grew up. Yeah, but yeah, when I was 8, my parents brought me from Mexico. My dad was here already, working on the fields, and then he had brought my mom and my older sister and my little brother and my little sister from Mexico, and the dream of the Mexican people at that time was to come and work a little bit, save a little bit of money, and go back to Mexico. We never wanted plan to stay here because we couldn't. We couldn't. We were not legal here. We just came to help us a little bit and go back. And that was the dream of the Spanish people. So my dad brought us here when I was 8, and then at the age of 13, he took us back to Mexico. And like I said, he saved a little bit of money, and he went, and when we got to Mexico City, because at 8, I didn't remember much, but at 13, I mean, we had like the older house in Mexico City. It was real bad. It was made of cardboard and all that. Yes, sir.
Now, when you came here at 8, you said you went back at 13. Where here were you between ages 8 and 13?
In Chicago Heights.
Okay.
Yeah, Chicago Heights is mostly like a city. It's a suburb, but it's always been like a city. It's always been gangs. It's always been drugs. Yeah. Al Capone was there, all that. I mean, all the mafia was there and everything. And always, since I was little, I remember the gangs everywhere. At that age of 13, I already had my lowrider bike, and I had my hair cut bald. I had my bandana on my head, and I was acting already like a little, yeah, Chicano, right? So then after that, my dad took us back to Mexico, and Mexico City was very influenced, 100% of rock music, heavy rock. America influences Mexico and probably other places also, but Mexico City was very influenced by heavy rock. Everybody was listening to rock in the corners. Everybody had their shirts, you know, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, you know, and so everybody, they didn't know how to sing, but they will sing it. You know, they didn't know what he meant, but they'll sing it, and they'll make like dances in the streets, and in every corner there was painted rock punk. I mean, you would not see a wall without a spray paint rock punk everywhere you went, buses and everything. Well, right away, my cousins were in that kind of stuff, and so I didn't have no other friends but my cousins, so right away I started hanging out. The first night, right away, I started drinking, I started smoking, and over there, the school is like 2 shifts, one in the morning, one at night. So they come out of school like at 8:30 at night, and so then that's when everybody's walking and hanging out outside the schools and all that. And so right away, I got caught from the police by smoking the first night that I was there. And little by little, I got more influence in other drugs. And I was thinner, like paint thinner that they would do. They would wet their sleeve and put it like this and kind of smell the thinner. And if you had a little bit of money, more money, you will do like a Activo. At this time, it will be like cocaine or something. But it's always a way to get high, even in the poor areas. And so then everybody was influenced by that. And there was gangs because there's not a lot of cars that kids have or people have. So everything is walking. So everybody's walking. And there will be gangs like 100 people, 200 people. and we'll be in the streets stealing and taking things from people's purses, watches from the bus stop, and getting on the buses and stealing from the public people and all that. And so, yeah, we did a lot of that, but the police beat us up a lot of times. You know, they wouldn't take us to jail. They would take the stuff that we stole and beat us up. And then other gangs also, we got into fight with other gangs and we got beat up a lot. And a lot of people went to jail and a lot of people end up hurt. My best friend actually from Mexico City died already. He never left the drugs or the alcohol, and he died like 3 years ago. And he wasn't as crazy as I was, so I would have probably died already. But so then at the age of 18, me and my friend from Mexico, we get into a big problem where we beat up some guy, and I went home later that night to go to sleep, and so then my friend decided to go back to the same neighborhood where we had got into that fight, and the family members grabbed him and put him in a room, locked him up, and called the police and took him. And so they took him to jail, and they decided to keep him there, that he was going to be there for 6 months, because we also chewed at a pregnant woman that came out, kind of helping her uncle out that we were fighting with. And so he got his gun out and shoot at her legs, and didn't shoot her, but just shoot at her legs. And so then the police took him. And then next day, I went to his dad's house. They had a lot of money. They had a company and all that. So I went to his dad's, and I told him that he was in jail. And his dad said why, and so I didn't tell him. But later he went and found out from the people that we had into the fight with. And so then the lady came to my house and she said, all what I want you to do is pay for the hospital for my brother that you beat up, but what you have to watch is for Jose's, my best friend's name was Jose also, so for Jose's dad, because he said if his son was going to spend 6 months in jail, you had to spend 6 months in jail also. So he contracted detectives, federal agents, and over there in Mexico, what you do is pay them up, and then they go and grab you and take you to jail, and so that's how they do it, with money. So all the detectives were around my house looking for me every night. So I hide in my uncle's house like a half a block, and I was there like for a week. And then later that week, one of my cousins that was here, he went over there without us knowing. I mean, he went on vacation, and he drove there to Mexico. And so they told him the story. And so around 3 in the morning, he took me from Mexico and brought me to like 5 hours to Guanajuato, Mexico, and then brought me there. And then from there, I took a bus to Tijuana, and from Tijuana, went to California, and California to Chicago. And so I came to Chicago when I was 18. So when I was 18, I landed in Chicago, and Chicago is full of Latin kings, gangs, drugs, and everything. And so I was coming from drugs, I was coming from gangs, I was coming from all that. And so I just had to change a little bit the music, because over there was rock, now it's rap over here. And so now you change the music and the dress code a little bit, but you're in the same gangs, you're doing the same things. A little bit different now. This right here is marijuana, is cocaine, and all the different drugs, different music, different people, but it's the same thing. And so we're hanging out, we're doing everything that we used to do over there. Now over here we're driving, and so I would get pulled over a lot from not having license, or later on I got my license, then I was suspended, then I was revoked, and then I would give another name. What's your name? Oh, well, Aaron Campbell, I'll give another name. my brother's name I gave, my other cousin's name. At one time, my cousin finally told the police, you know what, if you grab my cousin, just make sure that he has an ID because he's giving out my name. And he's not telling me, and he's not going to court either. So I would give other names, and I would never want the police will say, you want to call somebody? And I would be like, no, I don't want to call nobody. Because if you call somebody, they're gonna go and pay $200, and I have to pay this person back. So I'll say, no, I'll just stay here. And I'll stay like overnight or sometimes 2 days or sometimes 3 days, and they'll get me out. But I went through all that, and to me, I was just living my life. I didn't think about the future. I was young. I didn't know nothing. I was just hanging out, partying, and I thought that was the life to live. You know, I wasn't searching or looking for nothing else. My parents were in Mexico. My older brother was selling cocaine, so he was giving it to me. I was selling marijuana, and I was hanging out with gangs, and I was doing everything that I wanted, and sometimes I will end up in jail, like I said, and then next day I'll be out of jail, and so I just was living that kind of life. Well, later I met my wife, and my wife is a very strong woman. She can go out in the winter barefooted, but then all of a sudden she gets a cold. And so today she had a cold, and so she couldn't come with me. But I have a very nice wife, and so at that time, she was my girlfriend, and so then we had 3 kids, but I gave her a real rough life, like a real bad life. Like if by God's grace, she's still with me, because I would take her to Mexico for 30 days. I'll go to Mexico with $500 in my pocket. I'll be driving all the way to Mexico without stopping. And then I'll be drinking in Mexico for the full 30 days with my friends, with my dad, with my brothers. I mean, we were a very party family, and starting from my dad. So my dad was very crazy. My brothers were very crazy. My uncles were very crazy. Everybody was crazy in my family. And so then we didn't know any better. So when we got to Mexico, it was party time every day, you know. And so my wife was locked up in the house doing nothing. And so she didn't know where to go, because she didn't know Mexico. She didn't know nothing. So then she will be like until the day that we were leaving. Then my dad had to borrow money to give me money for gas money so we can come over here. And sometimes we went when my little kids were little. The first time that we went, my daughter was 1 month old. And then next time we took 2 kids, one 1 month old, another one was 1 year old. And so little kids will be watching the kids, and I'll be drinking outside. But finally, 6 years later, she was tired of it, because not only partying in Mexico, but when I was over here, I would be partying every day also. And my brother will be trying to give me a job somewhere. He got me a job one time at a place, Balmoral Park. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Balmoral Park, the horse race place. And so he got me a job there, trying to help me out. My brother was very responsible. I was very irresponsible, but my brother was responsible. And so then he got me a job, and right away I fell asleep and knocked down 7 posts, and they fired me. And so then later on, my brother got a job in construction on high rises, swinging scaffolds. And so then my brother got me a job there. And so I got a job in Chicago, and my wife had left me already. She didn't want nothing to do with me. She never wanted to come back to me, and she was finally tired. The police was all the time at the house from us fighting and taking me to jail and all that. And so my wife didn't want nothing to do with me or nothing. She just was tired of it. And so my wife had left me, and then that one night when she had left, it was like 2 weeks before that. Then it came November 24 of 1983, and this is where I'm gonna jump into what God did to change my life, to my life verse, Jeremiah 33:3. Call unto me, because right here, without me looking for the number, I didn't know where to look for the number, without me searching. But it's like when somebody finds you in the street and say, like Mr. Aaron right here, and he says, here, a flyer for our church, and you're like, what is this? And that's like if God gave me the number, here, call me. And so then my brother had got me a job in construction, and I was still drinking and all that. I was living at that time in Calumet City. My landlord lived in the front, and I live in the back. And every time he came from work and all that, I came from work, we would be drinking and all that in the front. And so then one day, one Monday night, November 22nd, we were drinking outside the apartment. And so then as we're drinking, it's like 3 in the morning, well, 1:30 in the morning at first, and some van starts passing by with some rival gang members and just staring at us. And so then they leave, and then like at 2 in the morning, they go again. And like 2:30 in the morning, they go again. The third time I went to the street, and I'm like, hey, what's your problem and all that. I start yelling at them and calling on them. And so then they left. Well, that night I went to sleep. Next morning, Tuesday, I wake up, and when I open my door, well, I didn't go to work because I went to sleep like at 3 in the morning, so I didn't wake up until 10 in the morning. When I opened my door, these guys are outside, like in the front. So then when they saw me and I saw them, they took off. I didn't know who these guys were. I didn't know what they were looking for, nothing. I just know that a year before that, they had killed my best friend here, my best friend from Chicago. They had killed him. So now I'm thinking maybe these guys are after me. Maybe they're the ones that killed my best friend. I don't know who were they. Well, that happened Tuesday. Then Tuesday I go to where I used to hang out, and my friends tell me, hey, you want something to drink? I'm like, no, I don't want nothing. Do you want marijuana? No, I don't want nothing. You want cocaine? No, I don't want nothing. I didn't want nothing. All I wanted to concentrate is in what was going to happen to me. Why was I feeling that way? And so then I left there, and then I go to my house because I had some marijuana that I had to sell. I used to sell a quarter pound to this guy all the time every week. And so then I went there, and so I gave it out. And so then I went to my sister's and spent the night because I said, I'm not spending the night here, because if I spend the night here, somebody's going to come and kill me here. So I went to my sister's that night. And so then that was Tuesday night. Next day, Wednesday morning, I went to my house to get ready at 5 in the morning. I get ready for work. As I go in, I take a hammer, I search inside for anybody there, and nobody was there. I change and I go. As I'm driving a Lakeshore Drive, all the traffic is a rush hour. Everybody's passing you up and all that. I'm thinking somebody's just gonna pass by and just shoot me. That's how scared I was. That I was thinking that somebody's chasing me, that somebody's behind me, and all that. The fear that I had that something was gonna happen to me. I didn't know what was gonna happen. I just felt something was gonna happen. I get to my job at Irving Park and Marine Drive in Chicago, in front of the building that I was working. And so I'm gonna show you a picture of the. This is the building that I was working. And so I park by there. And so then after that, I go and talk to my boss. My boss was kind of upset. My boss didn't like me. He will always, uh, he liked my brother, but he will gave me the job because of my brother, not because of me. And my boss that morning, he was kind of mad. He's like, why you didn't come to work yesterday? I said, I couldn't come. Why you didn't call? I couldn't. And he said, hey, anyway, you know what? I heard from your brother that you're separated from your wife, you're separated from your kids. It's nothing like to be together with your family. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving Day, and it's nothing like to spend it with a family. Then comes Christmas, come New Year's, and it's nothing like to spend it with a family. You try to get together. And my boss telling me that for the first time, telling me good things. And as he telling me that, his eyes are kind of watery, telling me that. And so he said, anyway, let's go up to the scaffold. If you're working on a swinging scaffold, I don't know if you guys are familiar with swinging scaffolds outside the buildings, but if you're working on the top floors, then you leave your scaffold upstairs. So that way, next morning you go upstairs and get on your scaffold and start working down. And if you're working on the bottom floors, you leave your scaffold down. So the day before they had work, because I didn't go, they had worked on that scaffold on the top 12 floors. So he says, let's check the tuck pointing, see if the tuck pointing, that's what we were doing, tuck pointing. And he said if he didn't crack with the cold weather, it was November. So he said if he didn't crack with the cold weather. And if he cracked, let's grind it and do it all over again. So we go on the elevator, my boss, my partner, and I. And so we go on the elevator, we get to the roof of the building, and me and my boss get on the scaffold. The scaffold is hanging on the side of the building, and from the roof we climb down to the scaffold, and my partner stays in the roof talking to us. He's on his knees talking to us, and me and my boss are there. Well, before when I was so scared in my car, when I couldn't get off, when I had got there and I couldn't get off, and I was so scared, before I got out, I said this is what I said, without nobody telling me, without nothing, but the feeling that I had so bad that I was gonna die and I didn't know how. This is what I said. I said, God, I don't know what's gonna happen to me, but I feel something is gonna happen. Please help me. That's what I had said before I got off my car. So now I'm standing in the scaffold with my boss. All of a sudden, as we're standing on the scaffold, all of a sudden the cable breaks from the scaffold. So just think, if you get on a swing, on a regular swing, and they're pushing you, and one rope breaks, what happens? What happens? You fall, right? Yeah. So the swing goes like that, right? Like that, throwing you down. But you know what? We're 29 floors. See the scaffold? So the scaffold, here's kind of the cable that it was hanging here. So when this scaffold was here, and we were on it like right here, and my partner was like right here. This is not my partner, this is an investigator. But my partner was here, and my boss and I were here on the scaffold, standing right here. So as we're there, and the cable breaks, right away when that cable breaks, I said to myself, this is what was gonna happen to me. Remember, I was feeling that I was gonna die. I was feeling that that they were gonna kill me. I was feeling that I was gonna die and I didn't know how. I was feeling that somebody was chasing me and was gonna shoot me. I didn't know how, but all of a sudden, I'm there. I'm there, and the cable breaks, and I'm 29 floors up, and there's no way I'm gonna live, right? There's no way. But what I had done like 15 minutes before that, before I got off my car, I pray. I call on who? Unto the Lord. Call unto me. And what? And I will answer thee. Yeah, he answers. He's not like Brother Aaron. He answers. No. Now I call Brother Aaron and he answers. Now he answers because now he knows that I am. That he's like, oh, I know. Before he thought he was a telemarketer, which I do that too. I don't answer some calls from that you don't know who is it, from other areas. So that's what he thought, But God knows who you are. So when you call him, he knows who you are. I mean, he answers because he knows who I am. Unless he's very busy, he probably, this I have called him and he has answered because now he knows. Well, we get to the ground. My boss is dead and I'm alive. I am conscious. My brother was, he was working another scaffold next to me. So his scaffold was in the ground. So he was getting his tools ready to get to his scaffold. So when he's getting his tools and he's coming, he hears something. So he looks up like that and he sees me. And then, well, he probably didn't notice until I was in the ground. But a few steps, like from there to here, that's where I fell from my brother. And so he runs to me. I think my brother got more scared than I did. Because he runs to me and he grabbing my head. I had long hair at that time, and so he grabbed my hair and he's like, no, don't die, don't die, don't die, don't die. And he's thinking that I'm dead. I mean, for sure. I mean, you would think that and he's trying to keep me alive enough because he's thinking that I'm gonna die. So he's like, don't die, don't die, don't die. And me, I'm thinking I'm gonna die. I was conscious, but I really thought I was gonna die for sure. I mean, I had just fell 29 floors. And so then I'm like, I'm not dead, but I'm gonna die. I mean, I said, I'm gonna die for sure. I cannot get up. I couldn't get up. Even if I try, I couldn't get up. So, that's like when you see in a movie when they shoot somebody and they stay there for a little bit and they talk a few words and then they, boom, close their eyes. That's what I thought. I said, I'm gonna die for sure. And so my brother I said, call the ambulance. And so my brother goes and calls the ambulance and the ambulance comes and while my brother goes over there, I look at the scaffold and I said, and the scaffold is moving like this. And I said, if I haven't died, the scaffold is gonna break because there's only one cable holding it. And so I said, it's gonna break and it's gonna kill me for sure. So then I started yelling for somebody to move me out of there. And a labor came and carried me and moved me to the side. And but I never saw that labor again, by the way. And so then he moved me, then the ambulance came. The ambulance, instead of getting there and right away helping me, they light up a cigarette and start smoking. They're like, how? This guy is dead and this guy is alive. How is that? Yeah. You know what was the difference? I mean, they thought, how is it that this guy died and this guy is alive? When Jesus was being crucified, one was on the left and one was on the right. And one asked him, right? And he saved who? The one. Yeah, the one. And so I prayed. God gave me his number. And I prayed and called on him. And he answered my prayer. And so then after that, they put me in the ambulance. And I thought I would die in the ambulance. And then they took me to the hospital, and I thought I would die in the hospital. I mean, for all the time, I thought I was going to die. For a minute, I thought I was going to be paralyzed. I said, for everything that I done, I'm going to be paralyzed. I thought God was going to punish me with being paralyzed. And no, they took me to X-rays, MRI. I came out, and they put me in a room, and they come, and they say, hey, you have a broken ankle, 100%. The bones came out of the side. It was real broken. And and I have pins now. I have pins, and at that time I had 12 pins and one plate. Now I only have 4 pins and one plate. And so you got a broken ankle and something broken in your back, but you're gonna be okay. And so after that, the news started coming. How you live? How you survive? I said it all happened so fast, but I pray, and that's the only way that I'm alive. After that, I was 9 years with crutches, but after 9 years with crutches, I mean, I was able to run with crutches and everything, and so after that, then I was able to walk, and so then now I'm trying to when that happened, right away I had like a hunger to see my kids, and I was like, where's my kids? I want to see my kids. And so my younger brother, he comes, and I say, hey, try to find my wife. And he's like, where is she? And I said, well, I think she's at her mom's or something, because she wasn't with me anymore. We were separated. And so she calls her mom, and so my brother tells her, and she didn't believe him. She's like, no, I don't believe it. He just wants me to go back. And so then, so she didn't believe him. And then later she saw the news of what happened, and she came to the hospital and brought the kids. And I said, hey, let's get back together. And she said, no, with you, never, never. I'm never going to go back to you. And so I'm like, come on, let's try. And I said, she's like, no. So she left. And remember, what was next day? Thanksgiving. And you know what I did? I thanked God. Yeah, I gave thanks. Before that, our Spanish family, all what knew about Thanksgiving was the day of the turkey, you know, and party. The drinking started Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and all the way to Monday. That was the biggest holiday in the year, right? And so we will do that. And now, Thanksgiving, and I thank God that He saved my life. And after that, I said, I mean, nobody told me that was wrong. But after that, in my hospital bed, I'm laying there thanking God. And I said, God, no more alcohol, no more weed, no more selling, no more drinking, no more cocaine, no more bars, no more nightclubs, no more dance clubs, no more nothing, no more gangs, no more. That's it. I'm done. What you want me to do? And so I told my wife, I'm going to change. She said, no, you're never going to change. You're never going to change. She said, right now you're all broken. You need my help. You need me to take care of you. But when you get better, you're going to leave. I said, no, this time for sure, I'm going to change, because we had tried before and it wouldn't work. It would work for a few weeks, and then I would go to the same thing. I said, for sure, I'm going to change. She said, no, you're never going to change. I said, let's try it. She said, okay, 6 months. We'll try it 6 months. So she said, but we're never going to go to the same apartment. So we never went back to the same apartment. So the owner of the company had come, and I don't know why, but he had given me a check for $5,000. I mean, I didn't have no money at all. And so he had given me a check. And so then I told my wife, okay, find an apartment wherever you want. So she found an apartment like south where nobody knew us, start a new life. She bought furniture, and we started a new life. But remember, she said, for 6 months, if in 6 months I see that no change, that's it. I said, okay. So I said, who saved my life? God. I said, who is God? I wanted to know God. You know, if something was to happen to you, and they take you to the hospital, and then you wake up, and they say, you say, who brought me here? Jose. Well, who's Jose? You would want to meet me, right? So I'm like, who's God? And so I wanted to know God. Personally, I wanted to know God. And I said, and what are we doing here anyway? I mean, because before I thought it was party time. Now I'm like, what are we doing here? And when we die, where are we going? And while we're here, what does He want us to do? So those were my questions, and nobody could answer me. And so then I said to my sister, hey, do you know of a Bible anywhere? And so she brought a Bible, an old Catholic Bible, small, and a blue. And so then she brought it, and I started reading it. And so then I would get up at 2 in the morning and read from 2 in the morning to 6 in the morning, sometimes to 8 in the morning. And I still do it at night when no noise, nobody is around and all that. And I'll read it. Well, I read it in 6 months. My wife had said, if in 6 months I don't see no change, that's it, right? Well, guess what? Now she wants to leave in 6 months. You know why? Because now she said, you're totally nuts. You're totally crazy. She said, now we cannot do this, we cannot do that, we cannot do that. My long hair, I cut it, my earrings, I took them off, the idols, I took off, her miniskirts, her shorts went to the garbage, everything. And so, we couldn't do nothing. My little son, he had 1 month old when he had an earring, a Playboy earring, and long hair, my little boy. I took all that off, and so I had 6 earrings here, 1 earring here, and so then we couldn't do nothing bad. So my wife said, no, you're totally nuts. This time you're just crazy. You really hit yourself on the head, and I'm leaving. I cannot stay with you no more. And everything that I saw in the Bible, I wanted to change. I wanted to do that. And then my brothers thought I was crazy. My wife thought I was crazy. My dad thought I was crazy. And so everybody thought I was crazy. And so all will hang out over there on the side, and everybody will leave me over here by myself. And I'm in crutches, I'm limping like this, and all by myself. Nobody understood me. And then I'm searching for a church. I'm praying for God to guide me to a good church. And so then somebody invites me to a Pentecostal church. So I go to a Pentecostal church, and then I get baptized in a lake and everything. And that's what they told me. So I'm like, okay, let's do it. Everything that you want to do from the Bible is fine. So they say, okay, let's get baptized. So I go. My wife is fighting me. She's like, no, what are you doing? You're crazy. I go, I don't know, but that's what they said. So we go. And then later, my wife, I took her to the church, to the Pentecostal church, and they brought her over here, and they start praying on her and trying to get the devil out of her, and they're like praying and get the devil out of her and all that, and they're praying, and so then it never went out, by the way. No, I'm joking. And no, so they're praying, and so my wife, she's like, never bring me to this place again. and so she never wanted to go to a place like that anymore. So then I'm like, I don't think this is right. So then I keep praying for God to guide me to a good church. I will see churches. I will go walk in and kind of think if it was right, if it was, and then I will keep praying, reading the Bible, searching, and we will fight. I will go out. I said, that's it, man. I'm also so confused. I'm going to go drinking again. Forget it. Before it was none of this. Now it's worse. And really, at that time was worse than the fights that we had before. Before was fighting, the police and everything. But now it was like real crazy. It was like if I was fighting the devil every day. It was real bad. So then my uncle comes to my house and he says, hey, I heard you're searching for God. I'm like, yeah, I'm searching for God. He said, well, I go to the Jehovah's Witness church. I'm like, oh, that's good. He said, well, I can teach you and take you. I'm like, okay. So he started teaching me, and he took me to the church, and I went. And so then when I went the first time, I saw a girl there that she was my wife's best friend, that we didn't see her in a long time. And this girl, she's white, and she's talks Spanish, and she's in a dress. And I'm like, what happened? And so I'm like, what are you doing here? And she's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, I'm looking for God. Well, she said, me too. And so I said, hey, can you talk to my wife? Can you give her studies and all that? She said, of course. So she started giving my wife studies and my uncle studies to me, and taking me to the Kingdom Hall. And so reading the Bible. And so then I'm all confused. I mean, I'm like, I just need to go back to where I was before, because before it was one thing, partying and all that. Now it's like religion. Now it's what one people say, what they don't say, what they do, what they don't do. And so then I was so confused. And then I kept praying. I kept searching and all that. And so then one day I was praying for God to guide me to a church where they preach the book of Acts, when they preach to people and people will get saved and everything. And so then one of my aunts came and she said, hey, you want to go with me to First Baptist Church in Hammond? I said, no, that's the last church I want to be go. I said, not that white people's church. That's what I remember. One time when I was little, they had took me there on the bus, and I remember that they had me in a classroom, like when I was like 11, 12, and I ran out, and they chased me down the tracks, and so I ditched and I took off. And so that was the last memory that I had from First Baptist Church. I said, no, I don't want to go there, that white people's church. And so then she said, come on, come with me this Sunday. And I said, if you come to my church Sunday, then I go to your church. So I went, she came to my church, and then I went to her church, to First Baptist. When I got to First Baptist, and I heard the preaching, and I heard the singing like today, and I saw the people, and I saw the kids, the kids sitting right, the kids dressed right, the girls dressed right, and the guys, short hair and everything decent. I'm like, wow, this is the place that I've been looking for, and the preaching and the singing. And I'm like, I mean, I came alive, and I said, this is it. And then from that time, when she invited me, right away that day they made an invitation to serve God. And so I went in front with my crutches and everything. And I said, here am I want to serve God. And so I went. Then they invited me to the Fisherman's Club. And I didn't know what it was, Fisherman's Club, but I went. It was to go out soul winning. And then when I got there next week, that Saturday, everybody was with their ties on, with their shirts. And so I went soul winning with them. And then they announced Hyles Henderson College. I went to Hyles Henderson College. And then somebody told me about the Christian school for the kids. And I said, okay, my kids are going there. And my wife was like, no, you're crazy. How are you going to put the kids to school? How are you going to pay? I was in crutches, remember that? And I said, I don't know how I'm going to pay, but I'm going to pay. And so they went to school, and I pay, God paid, and he got paid, And so then after that, like a year and a half later, my wife finally decided to come one service, and then she came, and she loved Brother Hyles preaching, and so then she got saved and baptized, and so finally then we were in the way, both of us, and then we started bringing my nephews and to the church, and then my brothers got saved. One got saved, but he decided to keep partying. And I would talk to him. I talked to him on August, on July of 2001. No, 2000. July of 2000. And I said, he made a big party at his house. And I went like at 1:30 in the morning to his house, see how the party ended. And he was fighting with his wife, and he had broken the windows, and he had glass in the hands, and blood all over the kitchen, and I mean crazy, a crazy party. That's the way it ended. And I said, hey man, you need to change. And he was like, no man, you changed because what happened to you, but nothing has happened to me. And I said, don't wait until something happens, because something happened to me and I lived. But how about if you don't live, something happens? And so he didn't want to change. And a month later, he was doing drugs and drinking and everything, and he crashed and died. My younger brother, 29. and he lost. He had 2 kids. He had a nice house. He had a nice wife, but he lost. God doesn't lose us. We lose all the time. But at that time, he thought he wanted to party, and he didn't want to leave the party. After me taking him to church, he got saved. He knew the way, but he wanted to still party. So after that, my older brother, he got a little more serious, and he started coming to church. He stopped selling drugs, and so he started coming. And then my dad didn't want to come at all. My dad didn't believe in God. He didn't believe in salvation and all that. But I wrote him a letter one time, and when he flew to Mexico, and I said, read this letter when you're in the plane. And I told him about, Dad, if you were to die today on this plane, where would you go? The Bible talks about hell, and the Bible talks about heaven. And if you don't get saved, that's where you're gonna go. And so he got to Mexico City. He went to Kevin Wynn's church in Mexico, and he got saved there. And after that, my dad, he reads his Bible. He goes to church. With my mom, he wouldn't even let my mom go to church. And now both of them go to church, and my brother-in-laws, my sisters, and so many people in my family that had come to church and had come to the Lord because of one decision that I called unto the Lord, and He saved me, and He heard my prayer. And well, I don't want to take no more of your time, but thank you everybody for hearing me and giving me the chance to tell my story.